Hello, everyone. Welcome to Scrapland. And today I'm bringing you a layout share from a recent retreat that I attended. I just want to do a quick thank you and shout out to Beth and Deb for giving us a wonderful weekend. We had classes and activity layouts. I brought some kits with me and completed all but one of them. And we had some challenges, which are so much fun. I can't wait to share that with you. So, I first want to say our hostesses are phenomenal. They are very experienced in having scrapbook retreats, and they planned and executed a wonderful weekend. I'll also say that this was also the weekend where the new Creative Memories embossing and die cutting machine had come out, and we were able to use that and demonstrate it during the retreat also. So I'll start off with the first layout we made during the retreat. We used the Wildflower Wishes Designer Paper Pack. That's a paper pack that Creative Memories came out with in the simple page format for using in the Creative Memories Scrap Journal. The Scrap Journal, of course, is the 6.75 inches wide by 10 inches tall journal, an album that I've been working on this channel, showing some sketches. The beautiful Wildflower Wishes designer paper pack was used to create this layout. It included using the Boilermaker cartridge for the notebook punch, and the words Happy Memories were used using the new die cutting and embossing machine. We cut this lovely paper from the Wildflower Wishes. And for this piece here, I ran it through the embossing folder for the new die cutting machine, and I just loved the results. The cutting instructions included these 4x6 mats. I did not adhere them down just yet because I don't have my photos, but I am looking forward to finding photos to put on this layout. I think it's beautiful. I think the paper is also very beautiful. We made 3 layouts using the Berry Harvest collection. The first layout called for several strips of paper to be cut, but as usual, my layout went off the rails very quickly. I changed out the background paper from what we were given in our materials. The instructions called for striped paper to be in strips vertically across the background. It called for this paper to be used on the reverse side. And so we were given this paper, and this paper, and we made the strips, and it wasn't working for me. So the first thing I did was, instead of making my stripes vertical, I turned them and rotated it horizontal. The next thing I did was, instead of having 3 strips vertically down the page, I took 2 of my strips and layered them, and I took the third strip of paper and made this zigzag design. Leave a comment below if you would like me to make a video explaining how to make this zigzag design. It is fast and easy, and I really like how it turned out. So I'm not even going to show you how far off the rails this went by comparing it to the original class instructions. But I found photos for this layout, and so it's a victory. I can't wait to get these photos adhered to my page. So this is a big win, even though my layout went way off the rails. This layout was the second layout in the Berry Harvest Collection class we took. And again, mine went off the rails. It was intended that the mason jars would go on this border strip here, but I knew that I am not likely to use a canning jar on a layout. So I pivoted and I used the new die cutting machine to cut cameras. This camera is one of the dies that came with the machine, and I used the oval custom cutting system to make a base to put these cameras on because I felt the cameras would not stand out well enough on this yellow striped background. Another thing I did differently was the class instructions that called for two different background papers, but I just absolutely adored this paper to be the background, and so I wanted it for both. And then we used the jumbo circle custom cutting system to make circles that were placed here and there. And I adore this layout. I know I will find photos to put on it. I just haven't had time yet to look for them. But this is a beautiful page. And even though my layout went off the rails, I came out with a layout that I know I will love and enjoy. And I'm looking forward to finding the photos to use. And the next layout that we made with the Berry Harvest collection, once again, I went off the rails. The instructions called for using the canning jar's border punch and the mason jar shape punch. I was not a fan of those. So I used the Creative Memories die cutting machine and used the shutter flower, as I heard it's called, to make these borders across the top. And I used the embossing folder for the cameras. So let's see if we can get this to show. If you can see these cameras and see the embossed cameras on this page. I really like how these changes made my layout turn out. I see this layout as a huge success. I've already found photos for this page, and I'm viewing these as two individual pages, not particularly a two-page layout. It can work either way, and I love layouts that will work either way. This layout was one of our classes, and it was inspired by the Diamond Kite recipe template. Our host showed us how to make this beautiful layout without needing the template by giving us some measurements to cut stripes here, a big square here, showed us how to do the gutting technique to cut the square out of the center here, and we also used the gut technique to cut out a big square there. I absolutely adore this layout and I am looking forward to making it again. This is the perfect layout for a single photo. And I have covered up a beautiful photo that matched this color scheme, which is from the Wildflower Wishes. This layout was so much fun. This design is based on a video by Bev DeBono, and I'll leave a link below so you can find it. It was a challenge for us to find and use our own 1-inch strips. Our host gave us instructions, but they did have to make a couple of modifications. The big modification was that we came down 1 1/2 inch from the top. So we started at the 10 1/2 inch point. I think in the video she says 11 1/2. But this point right here, we started with the top at 10 1/2. 10 1/2. Once we did that, everything else pretty much fell into place. We loved it. We were making it over and over again. We were just using the back of index sheets. When I selected my strips, I went monochromatic. The monochromatic fever got me on here. I can't wait to make this again. It is so beautiful and so much fun when people make this with different papers. And talk about getting those strips of papers in our scrap piles used up. This is an awesome way to do that. And even though I went monochromatic, when I got home, there were photos waiting for me to be able to use on this layout. I was thrilled. I go, oh, absolutely. I have the best photos to put on this layout. So I'm excited. I will look forward to putting these photos on the layout and embellishing it. And I look forward to making this layout again. So after our 1-inch strip layout using Bev DeBono's directions, our host gave us another option for using up strips. And the crowd went wild. We were all making this type layout where we have 1-inch strips here and 1/2 inch strips there. And we just went into our scraps and started having so much fun. So many people made this. They made 2-page layouts and 1-page layouts. I am in love with this layout. I can't wait to find photos to go on it. And then we made an even bigger challenge. One of the ladies made a challenge of making 16 pages with only scraps. That's 8 double page layouts or 16 single page layouts or a combination of the two. And you know I accepted the challenge. I'm so excited. I can't wait to make it. And this is the first layout that I made on the Use Only Scraps Layout Challenge. So I took what was left from the Wildflower Wishes collection and I made this layout. And it just so happened that the remaining papers fit together perfectly. So I had about 9 1/2 inches this way, about 3 inches here, and about 1/2 inch there. And I found 2 lovely photos that worked well with these colors. I used the new Creative Memories die cutter to cut the shutter and to cut the smile. The word smile is in the kit. And I used the fresh flower punch. And from Gem Tones, I pulled out that sticker. And then I also added stickers here, here, and there. And I adore this layout. I was really pleasantly surprised that I so quickly found photos, but the color palette just worked. And while I was at the retreat, I made one more page just with scraps. This is just 2 pieces, a cardstock and a pattern paper that have been welded together, and I just made 2 little banner flags from scraps in my stash. Even note This scrap right here, which is sort of a seam, was left over from one of the previous activities and isn't quite full 12 inches. So my plan is that once I have the photos and I know how they will be arranged, I'm likely going to cut this a strip and create the gap somewhere in the middle and cover it up with a photo. So this is using repositionable tape. And what is really fun is that I've already found photos to put on this layout. This layout was started as part of the August 2025 virtual crop. I made the base page, then I later found these photos which I've got covered up, but they matched this layout perfectly. It's funny, I wasn't thinking this when I created the layout, but once I saw the photos, I was really pleased to have this base ready to go. I made the droplets out of Island Waters vellum and dark sea green cardstock. I used the flames and drops shape punch, but they make wonderful water droplets for a subject like this, which is children splashing in one of those splash parks. I worked on this layout, which is from my latest flexible ruler video, which I will have a link to. And I was able to find photos to put on this layout. So I have photos and I also dated this layout. I will look for a few more embellishments to make, probably using the smiley face motif. But I'm really thrilled that I found photos for this layout so it can get into my albums very soon. This layout was so much fun and it has a backstory. I originally had created this sketch where I had planned to put the friendly fish border on the layout. Now my photos did turn out pretty much in the same place that I had planned on them, but while I was at the retreat, a lady was working on this quarter circle design and it stopped me in my tracks. And I went, "Where did you get that from?" And they said, "It's a video that Megan Jacks had done." I will provide a link to Megan's video in the description. So I went and watched Megan's video and I came back and decided I've got to make this too. Now, I made this basically with scraps. And I just adore this quarter circle technique. I will recommend carefully watching the video because there is a little trick to arranging these quarter circles, and Megan explains that very well. And my best advice for making this layout is to position each quarter circle on your layout before you start adhering any of the pieces. It's beautiful. Also, I only used scraps to make these circles. And I made it before the Use Your Scraps challenge came up. However, based on the rules of the Use Your Scrap challenge, this layout would not qualify because one of the rules is that you can only use a background that's either a refill page or an index sheet. No colored cardstock backgrounds are allowed during that challenge. But I got a beautiful layout. I'll probably think of a title to put about right there. Otherwise, I just am so excited that this layout's getting into my album very, very soon. And actually, this Island Waters green cardstock was paper from the berry harvest class that I decided not to use. So I was really thrilled when I was able to come up with a layout to use that same cardstock while at the retreat. This layout features one of my favorite designs. I made this nice wide border that goes at the top on the left and the bottom on the right. And if you would like to see me make this design again, leave a comment below saying you would like to see the wide curvy border design. I had made this as a base page, but once again, I did not have photos. But during the retreat, I found the perfect photos for this layout. And I am just thrilled. I just need to put a little journaling here. I may put a little more embellishments around this area somewhere. I may put a title around here. But otherwise, I'm really pleased that this layout is almost ready for my album. I finished this layout using the What a Zoo 2 paper pack and some What a Zoo embellishments here and there. This layout has peekaboo pockets here, here, and here. And journaling is going to go behind this photo right here. By the way, this animal is called a tree kangaroo, which will be written in the journaling. This layout is one where the paper does most of the work, and it's a get your photos down and let the beautiful design of the paper do the rest. This is a layout that isn't fully complete. I still have a little bit more work to do, but I'm really happy with the progress that I made on it. I have peekaboo pockets here and here, and I made a sketch that uses the ribbon template. I'm always enjoying finding different ways to use the recipe templates. And in this case, I made these borders by turning the template at an angle and sort of cutting one side of the ribbon at an angle. And then I used some more template to give a little curve here at the bottom. There is so much flexibility to these recipe templates. While they make beautiful layouts just the way they've been originally designed, don't be afraid to try new creative ways of applying them. Because the more you use them, the more you'll be glad you have them. This layout was made from a kit I built and a sketch that I made. I'm really happy with it. I can see myself adding a few more embellishments right there and probably some journaling right here. This layout was fast and fun to make. I had created my own sketch, and I have 3 photos here and a peekaboo pocket. I will be putting my journaling on the back of this. But one of the most fun things I did with this was I made this very extra large hexagon. And I made that hexagon with starting from this hexagon shape right here in the heart shape. These are called jewel stones custom cutting system. I'll have a link to these templates in the description box. But making that hexagon was fast and easy. So I'll ask you to leave a comment below if you would like to see how I made this hexagon and do a process video on it, because I love this design and I can see myself making it several times over. This layout was super fast, easy, and fun. I just loved using this paper, and the lobsters came from, I think, the Coastal Shore laser cut selections. This notebook edge paper was actually left over from one of the classes, and I just used it to make this journaling spot. This was my original idea for the sketch anyway. I'm very happy that these photos will be getting into my album very soon. I started one of my mornings working on this layout. It was very simple with a beige cardstock background. I used the bookshelf border punch and made a horizontal border on the left side. And on the right hand side, I made a vertical border. I used the original Copper Canyon paper here and there. And I have one peekaboo pocket with more photos here. I will probably add some journaling here. And I took this photo of the sign that is the title for this layout, the library. By the way, this is the library aboard the Celebrity Solstice cruise ship. This layout was a base page that I made at a special online event class. I was thrilled to find the photos to put on this layout. These pages will go into my month in review album. In my month in review album, I document highlights from each month in a yearly album. If you would like to see more about my month in review albums, please leave a comment below. This layout documents our first trip to the Shady Maple Smorgasbord. That is the largest smorgasbord in the United States, and it's located in East Earle, Pennsylvania. That is very near Lancaster, Pennsylvania. We were so happy to have the opportunity to go there. And if you are ever in the area, we do recommend Shady Maple. This last but not least layout is actually my favorite layout that I made over the weekend. And while the subject of the layout is quite a traumatic experience, fortunately, everything turned out fine. It's documenting a loved one's ambulance ride to the ER. I used the On the Mend kit, which was perfect for documenting this story. These laser cut borders were just perfect for this story, showing the ambulance and getting to the hospital. The heartbeat border micro cartridge was perfect. And I'm happy to say it was not very long before we were going home together. Thank you for allowing me to share these layouts with you. It was a fun journey, and I am really thrilled to have accomplished so much at my retreat. I accomplished 14 layouts and 19 pages that were completed or nearly completed. A reminder, if you would like to see process videos on techniques such as this border or the hexagon, please leave a comment below. I'll be thrilled to make those videos. And stand by for the challenge that's only going to use scraps to make the layout. Those rules are we can only use index paper or refill pages, no colored cardstock backgrounds are allowed, and the entire layout will only use scraps. I have so many ideas, I can't wait to get started on that challenge. Thank you so much for your time and watching this video. Don't forget to leave comments, especially if you would like to see some of the techniques used here. Please subscribe to the channel for more scrapbooking adventures. And have a wonderful scrappy day. Thanks again.